Hello and welcome to the Board Breakdown Podcast, a position preview show with me, Jonny, and my guest for today, also called Jonny, from the Ale and Vale Podcast. Jonny, how are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on. And I know it's been a long time since we've played each other. I think it was like 25 years ago, where Middlesbrough went to Vale Park. I think Paul Merson scored in a 1-0 win, and a lot's happened since. But I don't want you to tell me don't want you to get us up to speed over the last 25 years. But the last 5 years, what's been going on with Port Vale?
Well, yeah, last 5 years. Well, we're looking at 6 years ago. Our owner at that point decided he'd had enough and wasn't going to put another penny in. So he decided to throw his toys out the pram and quite publicly on radio say it can go to administration for all I care. So that happened then, and then Carol Shanahan took over in that summer, paid rather over the odds for a football club, but of our size, but felt like it had to be done. And then we had the COVID season where we voted to stop League Two, even though we were eighth and a point outside the playoffs at that stage. So we did what we felt was best for the league. So then COVID season happened, and we were terrible during COVID season. So we were at that point then of we sacked John Askey, who was manager, brought in Darrell Clark. He kept us up. And then the season after, he took us up pretty much. Andy Crosby was the assistant at that point and had a big say in it because of things that happened in Darrell's personal life. I'm sure that majority of football fans know what went on there with Clarkey and his family. So he then come back at Wembley. Well, he came back actually the Exeter game, last game of the season, but then led us through. And then the first season in League One, we started like a train. We were 10th at one stage, and we're close to the playoffs. And then Christmas happened, and everything just fell off a cliff and nosedived massively. So Clark ended up getting the sack in March time. Crosby took over for the last month, kept us up by virtue of MK Dons being worse than us. And then Crosby's then was given the reins for this season. The season started brilliantly, 7-0 defeat on the opening day, just what you want for your new manager. But then we went on a run of 10 games unbeaten, so that was okay. And then we went on a run of 13 games without a win until Exeter last week, and now we're 2 games unbeaten. So yeah, it's safe to say that it's been adventurous this season. Now, when you put it on paper, we're mid-table at the minute, 9 points off the bottom 4. We're in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. You've got to say it's an okay season. Like, Mo Vale fans' aims this season is to finish mid-table. Like, you finish mid-table, we then build next season and see what we can do and where we can go. So on paper, it's not a bad season, but 13 games without a win and some dire performances in there had kind of led to Crosby's head being a bit on the chopping block for fans. Didn't feel like it was with the ownership. They felt like they'd stayed pretty quiet and not give him the dreaded vote of confidence. But then we've won the last 2 games, sandwiched in between 3 and a 2-0 lead away at home to Stevenage and crashing out to the second round of the cup. But we've won the last 2 games, and Saturday was a huge difference in performance. So yeah, it's going to take a lot more of them to win the fans back, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. How long do you think Crosby has until everyone officially fully turns and he does probably get the sack?
It's an odd one because I honestly feel like the board have got full backing of him. So he was hamstrung in the summer really with a couple of signings. We went big on the goalkeeper, which we'll touch on a little bit, obviously being Connor Ripley. We went big on him in the summer because last season our goalkeepers was a shambles. It's a bit like the Arsenal situation where we had 2 number 1.5s, but not a proper number 1. and it was a bit of a flirt all through the season. So we went big on that because you can't be messing around with your goalkeeper throughout the season.
Yeah.
It just doesn't help anyone, does it? So we secured that quite early on, and then made some good additions throughout the back and midfield, and then we kind of then forgot that strikers existed a little bit, and then got to the stage where we had to. Well, we didn't have to, but we re-signed one player that we really that talks broke down on last season, and James Wilson, who is a magnificent player. Would not be playing at League One if it wasn't due to his injuries, but because he's injury prone, we kind of knew what we're going to get, and he's missed the last 5 weeks through injury. So it's and then we've been left with Uch and Loft up front. That probably the least said about them pair at the moment, the better. They've got 1 goal between them in 16 games, and there doesn't look like a footballer between them. But Lofty's turned it around a little bit in the last 2, coming off the bench. But I think it speaks volumes that we'll probably going into Tuesday, like we have done the last 2, with Ben Garrity up front, who's a centre midfielder.
I was gonna say, how are you currently setting up at the minute? I do want to come to Connor Ripley and Uche in a moment, but how are you currently setting up at the minute? I know I'm assuming you're struggling to score goals with the centre midfielder up top.
Yeah, so we've scored now 6 goals in the last 3 games. So since Ben's gone up front, we've actually started scoring goals. Pre Ben being up front with Uch and Loft up there, we weren't. We were completely struggling. Neither of them really seemed like they were going to offer that spark you needed. But we set up a hybrid sort of. It's definitely 3 at the back. We know that much. Then we've got his 2 wing backs, two holders, and then we switch between 2 behind a 1 and a 1 behind a 2. So on Saturday we started with 2 behind a 1, and then Chislett moved further closer to Garrity when we went to an open, stuff like that. So there's lots of tweaks to it, but yeah, it's essentially a 3-6-1.
So it's like I'm assuming quite defensive. Then try to pack the midfield and go for it from there. Yeah,
we try and win the ball early and go from there, really. So the midfield is packed, but Vale Park's a very big pitch, so it's not cramped. And that's kind of the difference. That yes, there's lots of bodies in there, but it's not actually. You're not looking at tight spaces. You've still got a big pitch to play on.
Yeah, that you were going to say when you were saying the 3-6-1, it reminds me of like Middlesbrough's days under Tony Pulis and Neil Warnock a little bit, where it was very much long ball at the channels, pack the midfield, hope for the best, and just get the ball in the box. And just it was a difficult time watching that type of football. I was going to say, like, the players that you mentioned there, Connor Ripley, obviously Jason Lutval is your second choice, and Uche as well. How was Connor started? Because I know you're saying that you went big on a goalkeeper. Do you think he's built up to expectations so far?
Oh, he's the best goalkeeper in the league.
Yeah,
he's brilliant. Not only is he easy on the eye, a lot of our fans are falling in love with him because the look of him. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's commanding. He closes space down well. His kicking's good, and he's also he's that lovable rogue. So against Stevenage in the penalty shootout, he picked up the Stevenage goalkeeper's bottle with the directions on and threw it into the stand, for example. So gets the Vale fans on his side straight away and annoys the opposition. Against Wigan, they were giving him a bit of grief, and then when we scored the winner, he just turned around and was giving it large in front of them. So like he does like getting involved with the banter side of it, but yeah, he's saved us so many points this season already. He's phenomenal, hands down the best keeper in this league.
Yeah, nice. It's good. I think when he was at Middlesbrough, he was still very, very young, right? And he just wasn't really going to get his chance, and he needed that game time so much. And it's nice to see him that he's slowly starting to come good in League One as well. And the other end, though, Uche, obviously he didn't spend a long time at Middlesbrough, and he scored 3 goals as well for us in a very short period. But you don't really sound convinced on Uche at the minute.
The thing with Uche is he's got everything that you need. He's big, he's powerful, he's quick. He's just got a trampoline on the end of his foot, and you'll know that. Like one time, you'll fire the ball into him, and it's like a dog with a balloon. It's bouncing around everywhere, and he's running around like his head's up in the air chasing it, and like really excitable. So you can't rely on your build-up play around him. You kind of have to hit it into him, see what's going to happen, and then decide what you're going to do after. Now, there's times where he'll trap it. He'll run at a defender, and 3 of them will be held off and thrown to the floor because he's that sort of person. And then he'll trickle it into the keeper's hands. There doesn't seem to be a goal scorer in there. There doesn't seem to be any football intelligence, shall I say? And he's probably a lovely bloke, but strikers are paid to score goals, and he just, as of yet, hasn't seemed to gonna do that. I think he's had 3 shots on target since we've signed him. So yeah, it's not great with Uche, but the same can be labelled at Ryan Loft as well. He's had the same sort of impact. Our fans have taken to Uche more than they have to Loft, just because Uche runs around a lot more and puts himself about and causes a bit of chaos, whereas Loft doesn't do that. But yeah, it's much of a muchness with the strikers.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there any other players we like Boro fans should be looking out for? Maybe like, obviously you mentioned Chislett there. Is there anyone else? Obviously Garrity as well. Is there anyone else that you got Boro fans should keep an eye on?
I don't know if I want to say, because the 2 lads on loan, and it's getting close to January, so I don't really want to give the airtime to it. But yeah, we've got 2 lads on loan. One lad from Sheffield United, Ollie Arblaster. If that boy doesn't play for England one day, then something's seriously gone wrong in his career. He's so comfortable to watch. He's great with the ball. His passing ability. He's also he's got that gingerness in him where he'll snap into a tackle and he's not scared to get stuck in. It's his first professional loan, so sometimes it takes like time, but Ollie's just taking it like a duck to water. And then another loan player, Alfie Devine. He's one of them players that you watch play and just glides across the pitch. Doesn't ever look like he's actually putting his feet on the floor. And he's got so much ability. His path is obviously a little different because he's at Spurs, who are a massive club. So he's going to have to work a little bit differently than Ollie, because let's be fair, Sheffield United are probably going to be in the Championship next season. So a 19-year-old in the Championship works more than a 19-year-old in the Prem. But yeah, Alfie has got all the ability. He's played at every level up to under 20s for England. He's won the World Cup and stuff like that with them. So he's got a lot of pedigree. He's been a slower burner. It's both their first loans in professional football. But yeah, them pair especially are two to keep an eye on and really keep our midfield ticking.
Yeah, and as we go into the game, obviously on Tuesday, what are your predictions? How are you feeling about the game in general?
It's a free hit, really, for us. Like no disrespect, but it's not a glamour tie, is it? You guys, you guys probably feel the same way. Like it's a good chance for both sides really to get to the semi-final, and I know that that's more for you than us. It's a good chance, but we're at home, so we've got that bit of advantage over you guys and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good chance for both sides to get to a semi-final. We know we're the underdogs. We know that you're a big club and a good run club, but we also appreciate that your keeper went off injured at the weekend, and you got an injury list of about 15 players. So it's a good time to play you.
Oh yeah, you couldn't be playing us at a better time, to be honest. You know, we do have 9 first teamers, and then when you look at the 9 that are out, all of them would start normally, all of them, and it's just that time where you think, oh god, we're a little bit low on confidence. We're not playing particularly well at the minute, and it is pretty much set up for Port Vale to do a number on us, to be honest. And I wouldn't be shocked. Have you got a score prediction for the game?
I think it'll end up being it being a 3-1 defeat. I think you'll have that quality in the end to break it down, but I think it's going to be a scrappy 45 minutes, and I think you'll calm it down in the second half, and then the Championship players will shine.
Okay, then. I'm gonna. I think it'd be very tight. I'm hoping Boro snatch it 2-1 at the end, but I wouldn't be shocked if it went to penalties. I just wouldn't be shocked at all. And at that point, it's a lottery, isn't it? And it could be anything. But I would definitely take your prediction. To be honest, Jonny, I'd definitely take that prediction. My final question for you, mate, is where can people, if people want to find out a little bit more about Port Vale, where can they find you?
Yeah, so the podcast, we're on Twitter. We've got our Stevenage review has been recorded tomorrow night, which will include the Boro preview. So that'll be out 10ish tomorrow. So for the drive down for you guys on Tuesday, if you want to listen to three lads from Burslem talk absolute drivel for usually about 2 hours. It's never a short one because we get sidetracked by films and stuff like that. So it's on Spotify, Apple, and all the usual jazz.